Good morning and welcome back to Barely Moving, to part 3 of my Scotland adventure on my trusty Honda Supercub. The last time you saw me traverse the Highlands on what I think is the best choice of vehicles, an 89cc Japanese bike, only to come face to face with the dreaded Balachnaba. But with that out of the way, I arrived into the small coastal town of Applecross. I amazed the locals,
And I didn't believe that.
ate fish and chips, and watched the setting sun, and then retired for the night to my digs. The next morning greeted me with a light drizzle. A Scottish tradition, don't you know? I went and unwrapped my bike from its shiny packaging that was supposedly waterproof. It wasn't. And set off to go back over the Balachnaba. Oh sorry, the Balachnaba. Again my Honda managed to effortlessly ascend to the peak and take me into the clouds. I was glad I had the chance to see it in the better weather the day before, but after buying a drone, dang it, I'm gonna use it whatever the weather. On the way down I actually bumped into my parents, and as they wanted to view the spectacular views at the top, I set off for my next destination, Skye. The journey to Skye, although basically being able to see it from Applecross, would take 2.5 hours to cover the 88-mile trip. Easy in the protection of a car? Not so good on a small Japanese commuter bike. After receiving many of the gifts that Scotland had to give, she bestowed an old favourite, rain. And after another thorough drenching, I had made it to the threshold of some of Scotland's most untamed beauty. Skye Bridge, the definitive marker signalling our departure from the mainland and onto the rugged, majestic Skye. Now, after nearly drowning with the onslaught of rain that I was inhaling due to the gale force winds that, for the first time on this journey, had made riding my little Honda rather precarious, I arrived at my overnight digs. The next morning prevailed though, with blue sky. I woke up and decided that I would leave my little Honda today and travel with the parents around the island in the safety and climate controlled comfort of the car. Now, Skye is one of those places with that raw untamed beauty. I mean, our first stop was literally down the road. Literally right there! Kilt Rock and a majestic falls. So I deployed my drone and flew in for a closer look. Skye is one of those places that has enthralled people over the centuries, and you can see why. But the main reason for my coming here, and one of the deciding factors when buying my drone for this trip, was right up ahead. Now, if any of you have ever been in a Scottish tourist shop, after clawing your way through the Loch Ness plushies, the shortbread tins, and anything else you can think of, but in tartan, you will inevitably come across the postcard rack, and you are guaranteed to find on that little A5 glossy cover this majestic beauty, the Old Man of Storr. Adamant to get my postcard shot, I decided to head up the mountain. The weather was great! 10 minutes later, the weather had got a bit worse. Definitely not drone weather. Not really being outside weather either. So I reluctantly went back down the mountain. A quick drive around, and a visit to Portree, and we were back in the house. I was quite disappointed, as one of the main reasons for my trip was to see the Old Man of Storr in all its magnificence and get my postcard shot. Will I get my postcard shot? I wasn't going to let the Scottish weather win, so I headed out early in the morning. Now, I didn't have time to walk up there, so I thought I'd just fly my drone up from the car park, the 3 kilometres, and get the money shot. I set my drone off, all things were going well, but then a cloud started to get in the way and it looked like rain, so I aborted. I had another battery for attempt number 2. It was a bit windy, but as long as I kept the drone close to the ground, it was okay. And then, as if the stars had aligned, the clouds gave way and boom, my money shot appeared before me. Not wanting to squander this rare opportunity, I flew around, taking it all in for a few more minutes. Then I pointed droney homeward and pushed forward. This was the point when I got a high wind warning, and my drone was stuck stationary in mid-air. Now, after a butt-clenching few minutes, chucking it into sport mode and descending closer to the ground, I managed to get it back. Barely. But after giving us the gift of an invigorating shower, some spectacular sights, and blowing my bike over, yeah, the wind actually blew my locked up Honda over, no damage though, it was time to leave. But before we carry on, just a quick reminder, if you haven't already done so, please leave a like and subscribe as it really helps the channel. And don't forget to ring that notification icon so you get notified when my next video comes up. Anyway, on with the show. Now Dad, who is also a keen motorcyclist, fancied a short riding, so he took the reins of the Mighty 90, that's a good nickname, I'm gonna remember that, and steered it towards Fort William for our next overnight stay. I, for the first time in days, was actually travelling the speed limit in the car. I used this time to be the cameraman, also provided some amazing commentary. Looks like Dad's got a big orange bum, but it's like inflated butt cheeks. After that, a quick stop at the amazing Eileen Donnan Castle. Before you knew it, we were in Fort William. It wasn't my favourite location on the trip, but its saving grace, a really nice wood-fired pizza joint. The day began with that mid-morning drizzle that I seem to have become accustomed to here on the west coast. On today's route, we were headed for home via Glencoe and Stirling, more on that later, but first a slight detour along Loch Eel, to what I didn't realise would become another of the many highlights of this trip. The Glenfinnan Viaduct. A monument that is such an embodiment of Scotland, it's even on the money. Very cool. Built in 1901, its primary use was to service the local fishing industry, the Highlands economy in general, and be thrown into any and all period dramas that include a train journey. Unbeknownst to me, I had arrived at the absolute perfect time, as when I had deployed my drone, I noticed something on the horizon. I later found out this was the last train of the season. What fortuitous timing. After a short walk in the information centre, it was time to head off to Stirling on what was the last leg of this absolutely spectacular trip. Although the trip was now winding down, that didn't mean Scotland didn't have anything else to offer, as it was now time to do one of the things that should be on everyone's Scottish bucket list: Glencoe. My Honda powered up this incredible valley carved out by glaciers millions of years ago, and even though the weather was rubbish, Scotland more than made up for it. With the day's end coming to a close, we left the majesty of the Highlands and continued to the overnight destination of Stirling. The next morning I headed out with the drone and saw the sights. The Wallace Monument was top of my list, a 70-metre tower dedicated to the memory of William Wallace and his victory at the Battle of Stirling Bridge. And then finally Stirling Castle. It's like a mini version of Edinburgh Castle, really. I then headed back to the hotel where I packed up my little Honda, the mighty 90, for the last time, as I began my journey back to cheery old England. On my way, pondering over the frankly amazing voyage that this little bike managed to achieve. I mean, 1,500 miles on a bike with a piston not much bigger than a pill bottle, and through all the rain, potholes, and not to mention the 2 times that the wind blew it over, it never faltered once. As for Scotland, I won't forget the people, the places, or the raw untamed beauty of the land of the brave.